Hey guys! Welcome back to my channel. In case you're new here, I'm Sophie Ramos. I create detailed vlogs, reviews, and guides on travel and lifestyle. So if you're into that type of content, do check out my other videos right after this and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Today's video is a requested one from my Instagram page. I guess a lot of you guys are about to enter the stage in life or are already in this phase, which is called the adulting phase. So if you're not familiar with the term, adulting refers to this transitional period in life where you become a grown-up, you have more responsibilities. Basically, it's a period where you learn to become an adult and more independent. So if you're a fresh grad or you just recently got out of college or you're in your early to mid-20s and have started working for a few years, or even much older than I am and you're just feeling a little bit lost and need some advice, this video is for you. I'm currently 25 years old, aka the quarter-life crisis age, and I'm about to enter my late 20s in just a few months. I'm still in denial about that. So I graduated June 2016. So if you guys have been following me since my college days, do comment down below. I'll show some throwback photos here from my blog. If you guys are interested to read my blog post on my graduations and the lessons I've learned after I graduated, I'll link it down below. It's quite embarrassing rereading it, but it's nice to look back to. So I think I've already gained significant realizations and lessons since I have graduated and entered the real world 4 years ago. Actually, my sister just graduated this year as well. So these are some of the advices I have given her already. Before I get into the video, I just want to say that all these things that I'm about to share are based on my personal experience and have worked for me. There's no right way to adult. All our journeys and timelines are different. The last thing I want is for you guys to feel pressured to achieve this or that right after this video. So I'm sharing all these tips and advice so that I can hopefully help you in this very overwhelming phase in our lives. Like, even for me, I'm still struggling and still learning a lot of things to this stage. In the end, it's still up to you how you will make the most out of this time. This video will cover 3 parts. First will be career, so that includes finding and deciding on your very first job or work. Second is going to be all about money, which includes how I budget and save. And third will be my life lessons that I've learned along the way. Most of these tips I'm about to mention, I never learned in school. I really learned them after graduation. So if you guys are interested to know what these are, keep on watching. So let's start with work. Now that you're done with school, what's next? When I graduated, I was really excited to start working and start earning money. And there's nothing wrong with that. I remember I started applying for jobs even before I formally graduated. And I was working less than a month right after I graduated. Looking back, I kind of regret it because I wish I took a break to reflect on what I wanted to do with my life. I had friends who took time off and didn't start working until 3 months. I guess I was just really pressured to start working, get a good job, enter a good company ahead of others, and I just wanted to be safe already without really thinking about what I wanted to do. So I think that if you can afford to take a break and not immediately start working, then really use the time wisely. Don't just bum around. Use the time to discover yourself and what you want to do in your life, because once you start working, you'll really have less time on your hands. I think that's one of the reasons why gap years are so popular in other countries. It's not so popular here in the Philippines and other Asian countries. Usually people who go on a gap year, they travel, they volunteer, and it's basically a period of self-discovery. It's trying to discover passions and skills that you didn't really learn in college. It doesn't necessarily have to be a gap year. It can be just a gap month. This personal experience of mine is in relation to my first career tip in deciding your first job, which is your career interest is more important than your career image. Often, our choice in companies is dependent on what others will say or how they will judge us or what our friends and families will think. This was my initial thinking when I graduated my course, which was business ad. So I thought that I should apply to the big names, to the big companies because of what people will say or what people will think about me. So you know how you go to family reunions or reunions with your friends and the first thing they ask you is, where are you working now? What are you doing? And I really just hate that question. I wish that people would just ask others how they are. Like, why is the first question, what are you doing? It's just so pressuring and it makes you feel like you have to say an answer that will impress them. For example, you really want to work in a startup or you want to work in an unknown firm, then go for it. Or if you want to become a freelancer because you know you can't stand a 9-to-5 corpo job, then do it. It's hard to care less what people would think, but who goes to work every day? It's not them, it's you. So do yourself a favor and just think about yourself, because in the end, it's really your life and it's not them who will be working but you. But do make sure to get proper research about the job or the work that you want to pursue. So there are several ways to do this. You can read reviews online about the company. You can also ask your friends or family or people you know who are in the same industry or doing the same type of work. Usually these people can really give you honest advice and experiences that they went through, so you'll be able to figure out if it's for you or not. Just do proper research so that you know even beforehand what you are getting yourself into or what you can expect from the job. So you might be thinking now, what if I don't know what I want? What if I don't know what I'm interested in? And that's normal. Even after college, a lot of us don't really know what we want to do. And even for me, I really didn't know what I wanted. And that's okay. My second career advice is to know what you want by finding out what you don't like. You don't exactly have to know what you want. You can figure it out along the way. So my first tip in finding out what you don't like is by doing a lot of interviews. So when I graduated, I applied to all sorts of companies from different industries. And from there, I was able to somehow get a feel of the working environment of the company based on my interviews alone and also seeing the office itself, which is not so possible now, but once it is, you'll be able to really have a feel of working in that particular company and see if it's for you. So my advice is when doing interviews, ask a lot of questions right after. You can ask several questions that will make you more informed about what you're getting yourself into. You can ask, what is a typical day like? What's expected from me? How is my performance measured? What is the working environment like? Is there work-life balance? All these things. You can just search on Google like popular questions that you can ask in an interview, and these questions will really help you see if the things that they mention are in line with your preferences and your interests. By applying to several companies, aside from giving me a lot of practice in terms of doing interviews, I was able to somehow assess if the job is for me or not from the interviews alone. So for example, if you don't like dealing with a lot of numbers, you're more on the creative side, if the task involves spreadsheets and Excel, then right off the bat, you would know that the job isn't for you. Likewise, you can figure out the job that you want to do once you start working. If you come across things that tick you off or have a negative effect on you, then you'll be able to narrow down the task or the type of work that you would prefer. Don't be afraid to do things out of your comfort zone, especially during this time. For me, even if you feel that you started in a wrong company right now, don't think that you wasted time. Treat it as a learning experience because it is only through these experiences that you really get to know yourself better and figure out what your interests are. My third career advice is there is no perfect job. Like in life, there's nothing that is perfect. There's always good and bad. The same goes for your career. I think many of my followers are in the millennial generation, and I've noticed that we millennials, we tend to be very impatient. We want things to come ASAP. We want things to get done immediately, and we want to achieve so many things in a short period of time. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's being efficient and more effective. But there are things that really take time, and we also have a very idealist mindset. So a lot of research say that millennials are the job hopping generation because we always move jobs and we're never satisfied. I don't want to generalize, but this is what I think is common and also something that I can relate to. When I look at my parents' career, I see the difference in our generations. They are very loyal to their companies. Like some parents I know have been in a company for 10 years or more, and for me it's like unbelievable to stay in a company for that long. I feel that a lot of things can happen during that time, but I guess for their generation, they have different priorities and they had less options available to them. Like right now, there's so many job opportunities that were never available 5 years ago, like being a full-time YouTuber, influencer. So I think those are also factors as to why millennials like us tend to have a different mindset compared to other generations. So I myself, as a millennial, have this idealist mindset. My mind and my mood changes so easily based on my emotions. Sometimes I make rash decisions and statements when I feel that I'm stuck or I'm in a very unfair situation. But I've realized over the past years that you have to really go through a lot of difficult experiences in life so that you can come out stronger. Like these experiences, you really have to go through them in order to become a better and stronger person. It sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Like the only way that you can really get past future problems in life is when you handle the problems that you have right now. Being an adult also means not giving up immediately. Like there's so many hardships that we will still go through in life, and we really have to build that ability to withstand hard situations because life will only get harder. So if there's no perfect job, how do you know if you're in the right company, or how do you know if you should stick to the current job that you have right now? My personal advice is two things. First, figure out what your career priorities are, and then second, rank these priorities based on your preference, and then put it side by side or compare it with the current job that you have right now or the job that you're about to apply for. And if you're already working, see if the good outweighs the bad. There are several career priorities. It can be having a good working environment where you get along with your peers. It can also be having a good pay or high pay. It can be having a lot of benefits like medical benefits, vacations, leaves, having a good mentor or boss, having good work-life balance, having the office location very near your home because you get to save on transpo and it's very accessible. It can also be growth opportunities and just finding fulfillment in the everyday work that you do. There are different ways to approach this, but I think that it's very important that you know your priorities or factors that are very crucial to you or what is an ideal job for you. Personally, just to share, my top priorities in career is first having a good boss or mentor who I can learn from and who I can be inspired by, and having a good relationship with him or her. For me, it's super important to have a good boss because it's who you deal with every single day at work. I know a lot of people who quit their jobs just because they have a boss that they can't deal with or they can't really get along with. So I think it's really important to have a boss that you can work with and who can really help you develop to your full potential and really guide you throughout the job. But I also make sure to balance this with other working factors. You can't stick to a job just because of one good thing. Like for example, if your boss resigns or quits, what's gonna happen to you, right? You can't just stay in one job because of one good thing because that thing can easily be taken away from you. Another career priority that I've learned the hard way over the years is to have a job that keeps my mental health in check. So I'm quite a workaholic and I don't like taking breaks because I feel that I'm wasting time and I really feel guilty whenever I do so. There were so many times over the years that I really pushed myself to the extreme because I really wanted to maximize my days and just really achieve a lot of things on my to-do list. I ended up really burning out a lot of times in the year. I was just really so exhausted and I learned a really hard lesson along the way because of it. I remember during my Bali trip, which I vlogged about, I was so sick during that trip. Like looking back at that vlog, I really didn't know how I was able to vlog during that time because I got so sick the day before. I was really struggling in the plane ride because I was all alone. On the first night, I couldn't breathe. Like if you notice in my vlog, I really didn't have a voice. That was because the week before my trip, I was really pushing myself at work. Because I knew that I would be gone for a week, I really overloaded myself with work. And I won't ever forget that because I realized then that I should never push myself like that again ever. I've learned that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to step back and just focus on yourself. Never ever forget about yourself. You can easily lose yourself at work when you do the 9 to 5 and you really work hard, but never forget to look after yourself. If you're new in a job and you're trying to impress your boss or impress your peers, don't take it so far that you're already sacrificing your health. And if you're also like me, if you're quite a workaholic and you like get things done immediately, try to prioritize the things on your to-do list because I'm sure there are things there that are not urgent and that you can put off the next day. Remember that there are certain things that can wait and can be done tomorrow. Just make up for it the next day. So remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Like you really have to be healthy and full before you can work and serve other people. Now that we've covered my career lessons and tips, let's move on to another adulting topic that a lot of you guys have questions on: money. Immediately when I started working, I stopped getting allowance from my parents. So from then on, I have been managing my own finances. My first finance tip when it comes to budgeting and saving is to list all your expenses and your income. I have a spreadsheet on Excel. That's where I list all my income and expenses. I would compile all my receipts in a given month and I would dedicate a day at the end of the month to just categorize them and list them all. So I group all the receipts by category, like for example, for food, for shopping, for bills, and then I would list them all in my spreadsheet. So it's not very complicated. It's very easy and simple. It's just that you have to make sure to compile or list everything. I keep track of everything, even the smallest thing like parking receipts. If I don't have a physical receipt, I list them down also on my notes so that I don't forget about it. I don't have a strict percentage of what I save and what I spend. I find it too constraining and a bit stressful. I don't really like having a certain fixed fixed amount in mind. What I do is I just save majority of it and then I balance it out. So for example, for a particular month, I feel that I've been eating out too much. I spent so much on shopping, or I just came back from a trip. The next month, I try to make up for it by spending less, cutting back on my shopping, or not eating out as often. So those are some ways I try to save and maintain a healthy cash flow. For me, this first tip is very essential in budgeting and saving because once you tally everything, you'll know where your money is going. And once you really itemize everything, you'll know where you can cut back and where you can save. If you tally everything, you become more conscious of what you spend, and you also see if you're saving anything or none at all. When you itemize even the smallest things, you'll also realize that some small things that may seem cheap can actually end up being really a big chunk of your income once you add it all up together. I'm sure there are better ways to tally your finances. Having a spreadsheet works well for me, and if you guys have any suggestions on what you use to budget or to list your expenses or apps that you use, share them in the comment section down below so that I can try it out for myself and check it. I think it's just important that you start and you find a way that works well for you. My next tip in managing your finances is to set up a bank account that is separate from your payroll account or the income that you're getting for your work. So actually, even before I graduated, I already set up my own bank account because I was already earning some money and also saving some of my allowance. I remember before I had a bank account, I would put all my money in this small box which had a key. Looking back, it's quite scary to do that because it can get lost or stolen. And I think that if you have money on hand, you're more likely to spend it. So I really advise that you get a bank account that is separate from your payroll and what you won't touch and just purely use for savings. My next tip is to know your income per day or how much you earn in a day. So if you watch my haul videos, you would know that I always mention that I'm not really a big spender. I really like to think about my purchases well before I buy it to assess if I really need something or not. Even when I was in college, I really just spend more on my essentials like food and only buy things that I really want after I really think about them. Once I started working, I became more conscious of my spending, realizing how hard it is to make money. I started computing how much I earn in a day, and I use that amount to assess if a certain item that I want is worth it or not. For example, I want to buy a new book or skincare item, or I want to eat in a fancy restaurant. Usually the cost of that is more or less a day's work for me, and that's when I realized that if I want to buy something or not. So this tip is something that you can apply so that you can also save money and also spend wisely. My next tip is to start saving for an emergency fund. Once you've already set a certain amount just for savings, make sure that you allocate some of it for an emergency fund. An emergency fund is funds that you can use for unexpected situations, and for me this is really important. I don't necessarily have a fixed amount that I can suggest to you guys because for me, I also didn't really have a certain amount in mind when I started my emergency fund. I think it really depends on the person. Some say that you should save at least 3 to 6 months of your income. I think it just boils down to what you can afford to set aside because of course we all have different situations and we all have different expenses in our lives. So I guess it's just important that no matter how big or small, set some money for an emergency fund. My next money tip is to build credit early. Once you set up a bank account, sometimes you get an option to get your own credit card. And I advise this because for me, there's just some sense of security when I don't use my debit card to purchase things because my credit card is not linked to my savings. A credit card also helps you build credit when you want to apply for a loan later on in life. Credit cards also have points which you can use to purchase other things. So they have their own programs depending on the card or the bank. And you can use that to get freebies and save some money on the things that you want to buy by using your points. Having a credit card can easily be abused because it makes spending so easy. Like if you want something, you can just swipe your credit card or just put your credit card number when you want to purchase something online. So before you apply for a credit card, make sure that you know that you are disciplined enough, and also make sure to read very carefully the guidelines in having a credit card. Sometimes you can end up paying even more if you don't pay on time because it accumulates interest. I won't go into detail on credit cards because it depends on the bank that you're applying for and the bank that you prefer. There are also different kinds of credit cards. Just make sure that if you have a credit card that you pay it on time because that's how you can get a good credit standing. The next portion of our money talk is investments. Being an adult means thinking long term and thinking ahead. You just don't live in the moment. You have to also think about your future. There's a common notion that you have to have a lot of money to start investing, but that's not true. You can really invest any amount that you have. There are so many forms of investments available and not a lot require a lot of money. I think it's important that after you set amount of money for savings and emergency fund, you have to start investing because of inflation and interest rates. I won't be able to give you a specific figure on how much you should invest when you start because it really depends on you and how much you're earning. Just invest what you are comfortable with. There are several investments available, and I'm sure you guys are asking, especially if you're starting out, where should I invest? My first tip in investing is to invest in yourself. Yes, you. You are the biggest investment and you are the best investment that you can make. The first investment that you can make for yourself that I would suggest is insurance. I was fortunate enough that once I started working, my dad was able to get an insurance for me and started paying it because I wasn't really earning much. There are several types of insurance. There's life, there's accident, critical illness, and several programs that have a mix of all of these. I won't go into detail because I'm also not very familiar. I know it might sound morbid to be expecting the worst out of your life, but it's really good to be prepared, especially for your beneficiaries or your family. It's good to think ahead and to look after them because you'll never know. Having insurance will really help you and your family in the future, especially for unwanted situations that you might not be ever ready for. For insurance, it's really best to apply as early as possible. The earlier the better because the premium is lower. As we get older, we're more prone to sicknesses and health problems, so the premium gets higher if you apply for an insurance later on in life. So I advise that once you're able to set aside money for insurance, do it already. Take advantage of being young and healthy. There are several plans on insurance that can be customized according to your income and what you're ready to set aside. Just a shameless plug, my sister's actually offering insurance. So if in case you guys are looking for an insurance, I'll leave her email down below and you can get in touch with her. The next investment that you can make for yourself is to invest in wellness. So as I mentioned earlier, health is one of my top priorities in life and I can't stress it enough how important it is. I don't see spending on wellness as an expense but as an investment because our bodies are an investment. You won't be able to do the things that you love and enjoy or even work if you don't have a healthy body, a healthy mind. If you keep grinding at work at the expense of your health, it can get expensive and you can even lose more money than trying to save because you'll end up being really sick. You'll have to spend on medicine or worse, hospital bills. Invest in yourself by keeping yourself healthy. It can be through buying vitamins, buying products to take care of your skin, or signing up for a gym membership, or availing of fitness classes. Personally, I invest in fitness classes. Actually, spending for it really pushes me to exercise and work out in a very forceful way, I guess. What I do is that I set a number of days in a week that I work out so that I can get my return on investment on the classes that I spend for. The good thing about investing in wellness is that there's so many free things that you can do. It's basically you're just investing your time more than your money. There's so many free workouts like glow eating on YouTube that you can follow. Personally, for me, I still like the feeling of being in a class because I don't like looking at the screen the entire time when I work out, and I just miss the human connection and interaction when I go to a fitness class. I know a lot of people who pay a lot of money for gym memberships and they don't end up going at all. For me, my advice is to really find a workout that you would stick to and that you really genuinely enjoy. Don't force yourself to do something that is really killing you and you don't really like it. Find a workout that fits you and that your body will crave for so that you really get the return on investment. Whether it's money or time, it's very important that you invest in your health and take care of yourself. Another investment that you can make for yourself, and which is what I have been doing for the past years, is travel. I never see travel as an expense but more as an investment. I also didn't include this under budgeting because for me, experiences are more important than material things. One of my regrets in 2019 last year was that I didn't travel enough. I was so guilty of taking a break at work. I think that more now than ever, especially with the whole COVID situation, traveling will be so different and the industry has definitely changed. I really recommend that when you have enough funds, do travel. Prioritize travel over material things. I personally don't have a set travel fund because it really depends on the country I want to go to. Each country has its own way of living and have different costs involved. Some are more expensive than others, so it's not really fixed. Maybe when the travel situation gets better, I can make a separate video on how I plan my trips. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the comment section. The next investment that you can make for yourself, and one of the best ones, is education. This can be taking up masters, online classes, courses that you weren't able to take up in college. It can also be language classes like Korean, Japanese. Just make sure that you dedicate time for it. I actually tried to take up Mandarin classes and I ended up not continuing it because I didn't have time for it at all because of work. So make sure that if ever you are going to study again, that you are able to set time for it with your work schedule. After you invest in yourself, you can now move on to invest in other areas. So that can be through stocks, bonds, real estate, mutual funds. There's so many different investments right now in the market. I won't go into detail with all of those because I'm not an expert. I suggest that if you are on a point that you want to invest, the first step that you should do is to figure out your risk appetite. This can be low, medium, or high. All the different investments that I gave earlier have different levels of risk. For example, you really want high returns, then you have to be willing to shoulder the high risk. So usually it's high risk, high reward, low risk, low returns. Bear that in mind, and I would just suggest that you invest what you're willing and comfortable to lose. As I mentioned earlier, with inflation and the low bank interest rates, saving your money all in one bank account can actually make you lose money. Once you've set up your emergency fund and have invested in yourself, definitely invest elsewhere. Investing allows you to make money work for you instead of you just working for money. Lastly, I want to share the life lessons I've learned in my 20s. For me, this is the most important part of this entire video because these are things that I feel that even after your 20s, you can take along with you in your 30s, 40s, 50s. These are just life lessons that I really want to share with you guys, and hopefully these will help you wherever you are in your life right now. My first life lesson is to don't compare yourself to others. This is such a cliche quote and also something that so many people tell you. It's easier said than done, especially nowadays because of social media. It's so easy for us to compare ourselves to other people, to our friends, family. Especially when you graduate college, you're so pressured to give off an image that you're successful, that you're doing well. Just remember that whatever people put out on social media are just their highlights, and you don't know the struggles that they go through behind all those posts. Remember that all our timelines are different. My best advice to help you stop comparing yourself to others is to define your own success. You can define your success by thinking about what truly makes you happy. It can be money, fame, popularity, career fulfillment, having family time. Once you know what success means, you'll be able to have a healthier relationship with yourself and know what is truly important in your life and appreciate what you have, and stop looking for others for affirmation and compare yourself and be jealous of others. The next lesson I want to share with you guys is life is what you make it. I always tell my sister that grades are not so important after you graduate, even your course. I know a lot of people who are working but are in jobs that are totally unrelated to the course that they took up in college. Like I have a relative who is a flight attendant but she took up film. I have a friend who took up arts in college but is doing numbers and analytical work. Many of the things that you do at work are not taught in school. Even if you graduate with the highest grades, it doesn't mean that you will be super successful in life. It doesn't mean that if you didn't graduate top of your class or didn't do well in school or feel that you took up the wrong course, that you'll have a bad life, that you're hopeless, you'll end up jobless. It's not the end of the world, guys. I'm not saying that you should slack off at school or that school doesn't matter at all. School is so important. It's a starting point to where we learn a lot of our life skills that we'll use later on in life. If you study to get good grades, you'll really build that discipline and that grit that you need in order to survive the real world. So don't take it for granted and do your best at school if you're still in school. There's so many skills and techniques that you'll learn in school that will really help you adapt and excel in work. There's always hope and nothing is set in stone. You can really change your life at any point, and it really just depends on you, your mindset, and the decisions that you make every day. If you're watching this and you're still in school, make the most out of it. Experience all that you can. Meet new people, build connections. If you're at work, make new friends, establish good relationships with them, and continuously build your network. It's true when they say that it's who you know. Sometimes it's not enough to have talent and hard work. You can hate that. I do too sometimes, but it's really part of life. It's true that some opportunities are only presented if you know the right people. Take advantage of it and everything that life has to offer. My third life lesson is everything happens for a reason. This is such a cliche quote, but it has been my life motto ever since and something that has really helped me get through a lot of difficult situations in my life. Whenever I get frustrated or when things don't go my way, I always remember this quote. Sometimes we don't know why things are happening in our lives. We get so frustrated and we want answers immediately on why certain things have to happen. Sometimes you just have to be patient because the reason will reveal itself eventually. You'll always be grateful for whatever that comes your way because in the end, it's really part of a bigger picture. There's really a bigger plan for all of us and we just have to go through the process and take everything that we can when we're in this state. For example, you didn't get the job that you want or you weren't able to close a certain deal. It's easy to get frustrated and to lose hope and to just give up and quit. But you have to be patient, and I've learned this so many times in my life that everything happens for a reason and it is always for the better. There's so many instances in my life where I look back and now after several years I realize the reason behind it. And when I think about this reason, I'm always so thankful because most of the time those things that happened before that I was so angry with is now something I'm thankful for because it has really made me such a better person and I've learned so many things from my experience. If you're in a point in life where you're questioning why is this happening to me, why do I have to go through this? Just be patient and always remember that it will always be for the better. I remember this quote. It's something like, good things break apart so that better things can come together. And it's so true. So my best advice is that just do your best on the things that you can control. In life, you can't control everything. There's so many factors that are out of our hands. Just do your best in what you can. At least you don't have any regrets on your part. Adulting is definitely a very hard and overwhelming stage in our lives, but we really have no choice, guys. You have to grow up and become an adult and just become more responsible. Just take it one step at a time and just enjoy the process and the journey. Don't rush. We all have our own timeline. One of the big things I realized in this stage is how grateful I am for my parents. It's so hard to bring up a child. There's so many expenses that come with it. So many sacrifices they have made to help me become an adult, to help me get through school. I think deciding to grow up and become more independent is really a favor that we can do for them. It's the least that we can do to give back to our parents and let them enjoy the money that they have and that they are earning for themselves. I was going to title this video, The Things I Wish I knew when I was 20 or as a fresh grad, but I realized that I'm really grateful for all the things that happened in my life. It's nice to look back and see how far I've come and all the experiences that have led me to these realizations. The good and the bad, as cliche as it sounds, really helped me become a better person. I'm really glad that I was able to experience all of these and learn from them because I'm able to share it with you all today. So these are the things I wish you knew in your 20s or earlier or later in life. I hope many of you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, even if I'm solely posting content that's not travel related given the situation. If you can relate to any of the things I've mentioned in this video, do let me know in the comment section. I love to hear what you found relevant. If you also have any adulting tips and important life lessons, do share them down below so that we can all learn from each other. If you guys want a part 2 of this video or maybe make it like an adulting series, do give this video a thumbs up and a like so that I know that you guys enjoy this content, and comment down your adulting topics and questions that you'd want me to answer in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so that you're notified every time I have a new post. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!